In renewable energy projects such as wind and solar, future generation is uncertain because it depends on variable weather conditions. To manage this uncertainty, developers and operators use probabilistic measures called p-values, such as P50, P75, P90, and P99. A P50 value represents the median estimate, meaning there is a 50% probability that actual energy production will be higher than this value. P75 means there is a 75% chance of exceeding that level, while P90 represents a 90% probability of generating at least that much energy. P99 is even more conservative, indicating that the project is almost certain to generate above that level, though the estimated output is much lower. As the P number increases, the reliability of the forecast improves, but the projected generation becomes smaller. In power system operations, these values are crucial for balancing reliability and efficiency. If an operator schedules renewable generation based on P50, they assume average conditions and maximize renewable use, but they also face a high risk of underproduction, which forces them to rely more on reserves or backup units. On the other hand, if they schedule using P90 or P99 values, they are planning for a more secure but lower output, which ensures reliability but can leave some renewable potential unused and increase costs by keeping conventional generators online. For capacity planning, system operators often credit renewables with only their P90 contribution to ensure that dependable power is available during peak demand. In financial and contractual terms, P50 values are often used by developers to highlight the expected revenue potential of a project, while lenders and investors rely on P90 or P99 to secure repayment even in poor weather conditions. For system operators, this distinction matters because the firm contractual supply based on P90 may differ from the expected physical output based on P50. In this way, P50, P75, P90, and P99 not only shape renewable energy deals but also directly influence how power systems are scheduled, balanced, and operated to ensure both economic efficiency and reliable supply. In renewable energy projects, uncertainty in generation due to weather conditions makes accurate forecasting critical. To quantify this uncertainty, probabilistic energy yield assessments are carried out. The most common measures are P50, P75, P90, and P99, which represent the probability that actual production will exceed a given value. For instance, P50 indicates a 50% chance that energy output will be higher, making it the median expectation, while P90 represents a 90% probability of exceeding a lower, more conservative energy yield. These metrics are widely used by investors, lenders, and system operators to balance financial risks and operational reliability. From a power system operation perspective, the use of these probabilistic values is essential for scheduling and maintaining grid stability. When system operators schedule generation using P50 forecasts, they are essentially planning based on average expected conditions. However, since there is an equal probability of underproduction, this approach increases the reliance on reserves or backup generation to cover shortfalls. On the other hand, planning based on P90 ensures a higher degree of certainty that the scheduled renewable generation will be met, but it may lead to underutilization of available renewable resources and higher operational costs because additional conventional units must remain online to compensate. The role of these values also extends to reliability assessments and capacity adequacy. In determining the firm capacity contribution of renewables, operators typically rely on conservative measures such as P90 or even P99, ensuring that during peak demand periods the grid has sufficient dependable capacity. This approach is crucial in maintaining standards like N-1 security and minimizing the risk of load shedding. For example, while a wind farm may have an installed capacity of 100 megawatts and a P50 average output of 40 megawatts, operators might only credit it with 30 megawatts based on its P90 contribution when assessing reliability. In energy markets and power purchase agreements (PPAs), these probabilistic measures also shape contractual obligations. Project developers may highlight P50 yields when presenting the expected profitability of a project, but lenders and financiers usually base debt repayment structures on the more conservative P90 estimates to ensure revenue security under less favorable weather conditions. System operators, therefore, must understand the distinction between expected output P50 and firm contractual supply P90, since discrepancies can affect both grid balancing and market settlements. Ultimately, P50, P75, P90, and P99 values serve as a bridge between the financial risk management of renewable projects and the operational realities of power system management. Operators must strike a balance. Relying too heavily on optimistic scenarios risks grid instability, while being overly conservative increases system costs and reduces renewable penetration. The judicious application of these probabilistic forecasts ensures that renewable integration supports both secure and economical grid operation. The integration of renewable energy into modern power systems introduces a level of variability and uncertainty that is not as prominent in conventional thermal generation. Unlike coal or gas units, which can be dispatched according to demand, renewable sources such as wind and solar are weather-dependent and fluctuate across different timescales. To address this challenge, probabilistic forecasting metrics such as P50, P75, P90, and P99 are applied. These figures do not represent a single deterministic outcome but instead describe a statistical distribution of possible outputs. This probabilistic view is critical because it helps both investors and system operators prepare for a range of scenarios, from highly optimistic to highly conservative energy production levels. In power system operations, probabilistic values like P50 and P90 directly influence day-ahead scheduling, reserve planning, and real-time balancing. For instance, when operators commit generating units a day in advance, they need a reliable estimate of renewable output. If they schedule based on P50 values, the system is optimized for cost but carries a higher operational risk since there is a 50% chance renewables will generate less than forecasted. This requires maintaining higher reserves or calling on fast response units like gas turbines or battery storage to prevent shortages. On the other hand, if scheduling is based on P90 forecasts, the operator ensures higher reliability but at the expense of increased costs, since more conventional capacity must remain committed even if renewable generation eventually exceeds conservative estimates. The importance of p-values becomes even more pronounced in long-term capacity planning and adequacy studies. Grid planners must determine how much firm capacity renewables can contribute during peak load conditions. Since system security requires a dependable minimum contribution, planners often assign capacity credits based on P90 or P99 generation figures rather than P50. This means that although a solar farm might contribute significantly on average, only a fraction of its nameplate capacity is considered dependable for system adequacy studies. This conservative treatment ensures that even in low renewable output conditions, the grid can continue to meet demand reliably. From a financial perspective, p-values are equally influential. Investors and lenders use them to evaluate project risk and structure financing agreements. P50 values typically represent the average expected revenue stream of a project and are therefore used in profitability assessments. However, when it comes to securing debt repayment or guaranteeing minimum cash flows, P90 or even P99 values are preferred.